I was remarking that we drove from Winnipeg back to Kelowna, and obviously we looked at some of the newscasts, and we'd seen the amount of smoke, and then of course driving back we actually got rerouted from 97A to 97B because of the smoke. And our kids were bummed out because when we got home we really couldn't go outside. We couldn't really enjoy why Kelowna's Kelowna. Part of the reason that Kelowna is so great is just the way it looks outside, right? And the way it feels to go and go to the parks and to do hikes and such. And we were inside for a couple of days, and then we got outside, and I think we were talking to David and Anita, Kristen and I, and we looked up at the sky and we're like, whoa, look at it today. It's blue. It's beautiful. And then we looked on the other side, and from our house you can see the water, and we're like, wow, we can see the water again. It's just so beautiful. That's what was there. When the smoke lifted, that's what was there, that beauty that God had created, and we kind of took for granted, right? Because it was so smoky. I mean, it reminded me of 2018. I think there's a picture of that in our, and looking down there, what do you see? Well, probably any city in the world, right? Like, some trees and whatever, but you look above and like, whoa, that's Kelowna, right? That's such a beautiful place to be. And that's God's creation. Like, how amazing is God's creation to look and to see that without smoke, without something guarding it, without something blocking it. Just amazing, right? And it made me think for a bit, what is God's greatest creation? What is the most powerful and amazing thing that he believes he's created? And on the sixth day, what was very good? Well, the creation of you and I, right? People are his most precious and beautiful creation. And what I was thinking was like, you know what? Sometimes, and I think we do it a lot actually, and I'm very guilty of this, I think we put some sort of smoke or some sort of screen or lens that allows us to not see the beautiful creation that God has made. His most beautiful creation, not Banff, not the magical mountain ranges, not the beautiful emerald waters. It's us. It's you and I. And I can see people's posts and all over socials. It's like, look how amazing this picture is. Look how amazing this area of Canada or the world is. And I'm always amazed at how beautiful it is. But in the eyes of God, there are only a certain few things that are that beautiful, and that's us. That's you and I. And, in working on the streets long back when I was a single dude, I had a lot of time to see people in different ways. Matthew 25 became a realistic part of life, and it was very much seeing what Jesus sees in people. It's funny because I went through and just looked through some changes that people go through, some makeovers or whatever. And I know that there's a couple of stories that I have about people that are getting ready for weddings or getting ready for funerals, actually, that, take a shower, cut their hair, take a shave, and look to drastically new people, right? There's some actually pictures of those, just kinds of people, kinds of makeover type things, right? So you look at the guy on the left, and what do you see? Well, I see a guy who's probably struggling and needs help, but I'm not sure if I can give him the money that I have, or I'm not sure if I can give him the time. Well, the other guy, wow, that guy must be something for real, right? Or you can see this is sometimes what we see on the left, but God always sees what's on the right there. God always sees what's on the right. He always sees that through all the hair, through all of the mess, through all of the stink, through all of the whatever. He sees that beauty. And that's our challenge. I mean, what do we put in the way of other people that we can't see them for who they are? See them as God's creation. If they're different, or if they don't agree with us, or if they are a vaxxer versus an anti-vaxxer, whether they are a CNN watcher or a Fox watcher, whether they are a pro-Trump person or an anti-Trump person. We create a whole bunch of smoke that doesn't allow us to see what God sees. You know, if you've been in the vineyard for any length of time, you would have heard the phrase, give us eyes to see, right? We've prayed it. It's a part of our theoretical liturgy. Give us your eyes, God. If that's what we're asking for, then when we see the poor, when we see rich people that we are frustrated with, when we see our leaders of government, when we see Trudeau, when we see Trump, when we see a Biden, when we see any of those people, what do we see? Well, they believe this, they're trying to control this, etc., right? And I'm not saying don't have an opinion. What I am saying is don't let that opinion supersede the kingdom. Don't let any one bent, any one angle supersede the love that God has for his most beautiful creation. People, us. There isn't a set of eyes that we'll look upon. And I'm not sure who actually has this as a quote, but it's kind of an anonymous thing. But there isn't a set of eyes that you'll look upon that God doesn't love. It's not there. And as a result, then, can we say the same? Can we say we look at all people the same? Can we portray God's love to a Muslim, to a Hindu, to a vaxxer, to an anti-vaxxer? Whether in real life connection, face to face, or whether online? Is the words that we're portraying seeing what God sees in that person? I know I have a hard time with it, but I know that's what he's asking from us. He didn't die for certain people. He didn't die with the people whose opinions line up with me. He died for everyone. He died for all those who are living. It doesn't matter what they're bent. It doesn't matter what their opinions. We can't let those opinions supersede the kingdom. Otherwise, we don't follow God's kingdom. We choose our own, which is fine if that's what we're saying. But I think most of us think, no, we believe in Jesus' kingdom, and yet we form opinions and we create sort of smoke that covers us from seeing the beauty that God's created. Doesn't mean we have to agree with everyone, but it sure does mean we have to see the beauty in them. In Ephesians 1:18, it says, having the eyes of your hearts enlightened, that you may know what is the hope to which he has called you. What are the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints? In the saints. That's kind of what I want to pick up on there. His inheritance is us. And granted, we might not know how they might become Christians, but I can guarantee you they won't become Christians if every Christian approaches them with, well, they're not like us. They don't believe what we believe. And there's a reckoning probably coming in the church itself of people who have gone to the vax and the anti-vax. There's been such a dilemma of, is God strong enough to conquer all these things? Shouldn't we have the right to choose? Isn't there freedom in the kingdom? Absolutely there is. But is it enough to shatter relationships? Is it enough to end connection? Is it enough to separate congregations over? I hope not. I hope we can see through the smoke. Because the reality of what God's created in people is his most prized creation. It's the one he sent his son to die for. If he didn't value you and I, he wouldn't have done it. If he didn't use love as the way to connect, he wouldn't have said, for God so loved the world, right? We wouldn't use that phrase, that he gave his only son, right? That's part of who we are. We're his inheritance because he's given his son for us. It is so valuable to have us in the kingdom that he would be willing to give his son. And so for you and I, as we look forward to connecting with people again and not using social media as the vehicle in which we connect, but actually a face-to-face, and I really believe looking into people's eyes changes our conversations. I mean, it's so much different when we can look on a screen and not have to look back at the heart of someone through their eyes. I think it would change some of the conversations. But that being said, we're still responsible for who we connect with and how we connect with them. Rich, poor, people from different cultures, religions, political aspirations, political points of view. We have to be able to see through the smoke. And what smoke have we put in the way so we can't? You know, I'd say in my own life, there's probably a couple of relationships only that I haven't reconciled, that I still put smoke in front of. And I know that's my challenge. I know that's something that I see. But for you and I, outside of that, for me, what is it for you that you know you've put in the way? Well, they think differently on this issue. Well, you should see them online. They're so much more aggressive. What are those things that we continually put as smoke that kind of stops us from seeing what God created, the most beautiful creation that He's made? Us. So my challenge for you is to really think through that. To approach those that you love with ease, and to approach those that you try to love with difficulty. We don't get to choose who we love in the kingdom of God. We love everyone because that's what Jesus showed us. We don't get to decide, well, they're worthy of my love and my attention and my affection, but they're not. Could you imagine if Jesus did that? Well, you're a prostitute, so you're clearly not going to hang out with us. Oh, you're a thief. You're definitely not going to be in the mix. You're kind of like a zealot. I'm not sure if I want you in the mix. Could you imagine what his disciples would be if he got picky and choosy of who he loved? He loved them all. And he loved them all the same. Regardless of whether Nicodemus became a follower of Jesus in the end, he definitely walked him through. He definitely tried. He definitely showed them love, even though he was different. I mean, for you and I, there has to be something that clicks in our brain that we have to drop all the lenses that block us from seeing the beautiful creation that God made. You and I. So for me this morning, my thought is, how are we going to find a way beyond the smoke to see what God's beauty is? I know it takes work, and I know it takes a connection with Jesus. It does. I can't do it on my own. But I know with Him, I can start to see what God sees, the beauty of His most beautiful creation, us.